The future is here when it comes to analyzing stocks for retail investors. You no longer need to spend hours on Yahoo Finance, on Reddit, and building your own individual spreadsheets. ChatGPT is taking a research process that used to take hours and now converting it to just a few minutes. How awesome is that? Now, it isn't perfect, but it makes us way more efficient than we used to be. And we can now cover a lot more ground with a lot more information at our fingertips, which gives us confidence to either buy, sell, or hold stocks. I'm going to show you how easy it is to do this in this video. And I'm also going to provide you every single prompt I use so that you can do it in your own analysis. Let's go. So let's use a stock that we all know. Whether you're a lover or hater of it, Tesla is a familiar stock to all of us. This way we can tell if ChatGPT is giving us good information or not. But for a new stock that we didn't know, we might start very general at the top, wanting to understand what a company does. So here's a prompt. I'm looking at buying Tesla. Can you break it down for me in plain English? I ask it that way because sometimes ChatGPT talks in language that sounds like what it is, like a machine. I don't want the vague stuff companies usually say. If you've been investing for a while, you know exactly what I mean by that. Tell me exactly what it sells, who buys it, why people buy it, and why it matters. Pretend like I'm asking over lunch. How's that for a starter prompt? Let's see what it gives us. All right, so it gives us a bunch of information here. So what Tesla's different products are and their categories. So electric vehicles, energy products like solar panels and roofs. Who buys Teslas? Predominantly males aged 35 to 60. I actually didn't know that. Homeowners and professionals and tech enthusiasts. Why people buy them? Performance, technology, environmental impact, cost savings, brand image, and you can see which of these resonate with you. And this starts to form your opinion about the stock if you did not know what it was. Why does the company matter? It's got market influence, energy innovation, autonomous driving. This is why I like the stock specifically. It does autonomous driving better than any other car company within the United States. So this is pretty cool here. ChatGPT actually pulls up a chart of the stock and you can see what it's done over the past month, 6 months, year to date, which allows you to start to form an opinion on could there be an opportunity here? So it's down 27% year to date. Does that mean that it's a buy or not? Well, that's not a question we can answer yet because when a stock is down doesn't mean that it's cheap or it's a buy. All right, let's keep going with our analysis. So the next question I ask it is really to start to understand its revenue stream. So I ask it what's its business model, its revenue streams, what is competitive edge, and what makes it a strong or weak business. And so it breaks out its revenue streams for 2024. So automotive sales made up about 90% of its revenue, generating almost $88 billion. It's got its energy generation business, which made up about 10% of its revenue, and then its services, which contributed the rest of its revenue. So again, this starts to give you a sense of a business that generates 90% of its revenue from vehicle sales, potentially in a recessionary time. Is this a good stock to own now? Does it represent an opportunity? Is this represented already in the decline of its stock that we saw year to date of roughly 27%? So this gives us more places to poke and to see where we could determine where opportunities might lie or if we should stay away. So the next place we want to go is to assess its fundamentals. So start to look at the numbers from revenue, profit margins, its price to earnings ratio, and its PEG ratio as well. So this is the prompt I use for that. Show me how Tesla has performed financially over the last 5 years. Include key metrics like revenue, earnings, profit margins, P ratio, PEG ratio, debt load, and free cash flow. Explain how they've changed over time. This tells us if they're increasing, decreasing, or stayed flat. Another data point for our analysis to determine if this might be a stock for us to buy, sell, or hold. All right, so you can see it pulls all of Tesla's numbers and gives it to us by year for the past 5 years. And you can see where it pulls the information from, and you can always click into that to see what the data is and where it's coming from. That's how we verify to make sure it has the right numbers. You can see it's grown at a 5-year compounded annual growth rate of 29.7%, which is great. However, a closer look at the numbers, if you just look at it from year to year, especially in the last 2 years, is that you'll see that its revenue has grown only marginally from 96 billion to 97 billion. So most of its growth was from 2020 to 2023, but from 23 to 24, which could signify that the growth rate is starting to decline. A similar story with net income here. So a lot of growth between 2020 and 2023, but actually its net income declined in 2024. Same story with its profit margins. Its profit margins are down from 23 to 24, even though it grew very strongly from 2020 to 2023. Same thing with its operating margins. And then looking at its price to earnings ratio, it's currently at 151.7, extremely high, especially in recessionary times, which is higher than its 5-year average of 108.3. So even compared to itself, it's expensive. The good thing about ChatGPT is that when it can't find information in circumstances like this, it tells you it can't find that information. There was a point in time when you were using ChatGPT, it would just provide you with a number. Essentially, it was hallucinating and making up numbers. But when we use the search feature with ChatGPT, ChatGPT, it actually tells you when it can't find the number that you're looking for. Its free cash flow also kind of shows the same trends as its revenue, profitability, and operating margins have. And check this out. It provides us with a table of all the information that we just talked about, right? And we can just see it here at a glance with the summary interpretation at the bottom. So it's demonstrated substantial growth and profitability between 2020 and 2022, like we talked about, but there have been declines in net income profit margins and free cash flow for 2023 and 2024. Its P ratio indicates that the stock is priced with high growth expectations. So if we're starting to see a decline in growth in profit margin, revenue, and operating margin, it's possible that the stock is overvalued. But we're not going to draw that conclusion yet. Let's continue to do some analysis here to figure out where we stand on this. So the next question I asked it is Tesla overvalued or undervalued right now, based on its key valuation metrics? Let's see what ChatGPT says about this. All right, so it goes out and does a search of Tesla's valuation based on these key ratios. So its P ratio is 151, like we had talked about prior. The S&P is right around 25. Automakers are right around 8 and 6 for Ford and GM. So compared to some of its competitors, if you look at Tesla as purely a car company, it trades at a significant premium to its competitors. And when we look at this price to earnings growth ratio, that's at 2.92, based on a 5-year EBITDA growth rate of 42.2%. And if you remember, its growth rate in the most recent years of 23 and 24 has been slowing significantly. A PEG ratio above 1 typically indicates that a stock might be overvalued. Its price to sales ratio is 10. In the auto industry, that number is roughly 0.8. Its price to book ratio is 11.91, but this is not a key ratio that's used in Tesla's typical evaluation, but it's good to know the number. Price to free cash flow is 142, which means that investors are paying $142 for every dollar of free cash flow, which is significant. Compared to its history, its P ratio is high. On a historical basis, it's been right around 98. It's currently at 151. So again, like we said, even though the stock is down 28% or so year to date, the stock might still be overvalued. I might have more downside potential from where it is today. And then here's a summary. Based on an analysis of its key valuation metrics, Tesla appears to be overvalued at its current price of $274. So I wanted to understand the sentiment around the stock. So what do analysts think about it? What do Reddit posters think about it? And what do other experts think about it? And so this is the question that I asked ChatGPT. What's the current sentiment around Tesla stock? Quote what analysts are saying, but also check Reddit, Twitter, stock tweets, and give me a real world sense of what people are saying and how the market feels about the stock. So this is one of those places where ChatGPT doesn't do a great job. I asked it for specific analyst quotes, and it did not do that. And then it provides me with a ratings distribution saying that among 64 analysts, about 23% of them rate Tesla a strong buy, 28% as a buy. So over 50% of the analysts in Tesla rated as a buy, which might be a contrarian indicator for us, and maybe it means we should sell. But it could mean we should buy as well. These analysts typically have a lot of insights into the stock that we don't generally have access to, except now with ChatGPT, we can collect a lot of information that gives us just as much power as they do. ChatGPT does provide a balanced view here. So ChatGPT gives me a great summary of the risks associated with Tesla. So trade tariffs and supply chain disruptions. So in some markets, the tariffs on Tesla's goods are more than 100%. Talks about rising interest rates and how that impacts consumer demand. And then increasing competition, which we're going to dig into competition a little bit more with our next question for ChatGPT. And then company-specific risks. So Elon has been spending a lot of time in Washington, D.C. with a lot of political activities lately, and that has caused some concern by investors. I mean, think about it. If you or I left our job for multiple months, people might question that, even though he believes that he's doing what's right for the country. Sales are declining. Deliveries were down 13% on a year-over-year basis. Sales in China have declined for 7 consecutive months, and it's seen very steep declines in various European markets. And there's some additional issues like safety concerns associated with the cars, as well as the fact that full self-driving has not yet achieved full autonomy. Although if you've ever driven a Tesla, it's much better than any other car that you could drive from an autonomy perspective. So I wanted to understand Tesla's competition a little bit more, and I asked ChatGPT, can you create a table comparing Tesla to its largest, most similar competitors and how they have performed over the last 3 years in terms of auto deliveries? So let's just focus on Tesla and its top competitor, BYD, right? So in 2022, Tesla delivered 1.31 million vehicles. BYD delivered 0.91 million vehicles, or 910,000 vehicles. But now in 2024, Even though Tesla's deliveries have risen to 1.79 million vehicles, BYD has almost doubled their deliveries to 1.76 million vehicles. And you can see that BYD is taking market share from Tesla because Tesla declined from 2023 to 2024 while BYD has continued its steady climb in the EV race. BYD is actually taking share from all competitors. As you can see, Volkswagen is also down from 23 to 24, so is Ford, and Hyundai is only slightly up. So a little competition isn't bad, especially in a market that's growing. But where it starts to become an issue is where we start to see declines in year-over-year deliveries, which is what's happening with Tesla. While its competition seems to not only be growing, but gaining market share on Tesla. So we might have a significant issue on our hands here that needs to be rectified if Tesla wants to continue to maintain its dominant market share in the EV space. So recognizing that I'm not an expert, just a retail investor trying to get better information about a particular stock I own, the next question I ask ChatGPT is, what might I be missing in my analysis? Specifically, this is the question I asked. What are some other things I might not be thinking about when I'm looking at Tesla? Industry shifts, management changes, hidden costs, anything subtle but important. So it gives me a list of things, but these seem like a summary of what it's already provided me, except for one thing: shifts in consumer preferences. Consumer preferences are changing with increasing interest in hybrid vehicles over EVs. Tesla might need to shift to remain competitive to ensure that its products align with what consumers want. This is a big deal. If the customer says we don't want your product anymore and you keep making it, it can be difficult to convince the consumer that they should still buy your product. And so the question becomes, is Tesla going to decide to shift to more of a hybrid model? And if they do decide to make that shift, what kind of cost is that going to entail for their business? How is that going to impact margins? How is that going to impact their overall product strategy? So the next thing I'm going to do is to ask ChatGPT to make a bull and bear case for owning Tesla stock. I ask it to give me an honest bull case and an honest bear case. What's the upside if things go right, and what's the downside if things go wrong? And within a few seconds, here's what it pulls up. So autonomous driving and robotaxi potential. So Tesla is planning to launch the robotaxi service in Austin. The autonomous ride-hailing market is projected to reach $1.7 trillion. Tesla's total revenue is around $100 billion a year now. So this is a market size that's 20 times its current size. Now there are other competitors in that market like Waymo, which is owned by Google, and Google is a fierce competitor and has been at this for a while. In fact, I read a recent statistic that they do roughly 200,000 rides a week, which is significant. Tesla is just starting on that journey. It does represent a potential opportunity for Tesla stock. It continues to diversify beyond cars with its energy business, its AI-driven robotics or humanoids. And then another point here is that those who own Tesla seem to love their Teslas. They love the brand, almost in a similar as those who own iPhones love their iPhones. Now let's look at the bear case. Declining sales and profit margins, which we went over earlier, and especially with the fierce competition that's at hand, will Tesla be able to turn this around? Leadership concerns. This seems like more of a short-term concern. At worst, Elon Musk will be working within the government for the next 4 years, but it already seems like he's already starting to take a lesser role within the government. Product quality issues. Several of Tesla's vehicles have had recalls associated with them, which is a longer-term problem for the stock. And then we already talked about the intensifying competition, and Tesla will need to figure out how to combat this, whether it's from businesses like BYD or as a result of the fact that consumers are looking more at hybrid vehicles instead of pure EVs. So to sum it up, I actually asked ChatGPT if it would suggest to buy the stock. Now, it's not a financial advisor and neither am I, so do your own research. But let's hear what it has to say. All right, so here's an interesting conclusion by ChatGPT. It gives us the bull case again, it gives us the bear case again, it gives us who the stock might be suited for, says might be suited for those who believe in the company's vision and are willing to endure short-term volatility for potential long-term gains. And then in conclusion, it says Tesla represents a high-risk, high-reward scenario. If you notice, it did not answer the question of would you buy Tesla stock? So there's no better way to tell you that you should do your own research, using ChatGPT, of course. So why don't you comment below and tell me what you think about this video? Do you think ChatGPT is a useful tool for analyzing stocks? Also, while you're at it, like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.